Welcome again to everybody and good afternoon to APNM's third virtual town hall event, which is titled APNM's Cruelty Hotline from Taking Calls to Taking Action. I'm Dorothy Hutchinson. I'm the Chief Development Officer for the organization. I want to thank many of you who let us know that this topic is really important to you and that you're interested in getting an inside view on how we're keeping animals safe by managing our statewide cruelty hotline to helping citizens lobby for humane legislation and everything in between. So from there, I'm excited to introduce you to our wonderful speakers this afternoon. First of all, let me introduce you to APNM's Cruelty Hotline manager, Alan Edmonds. Alan grew up in New Jersey, but moved to New Mexico in 1997 after falling in love with the Southwest, like probably many of us. He's been the cruelty case manager for animal protection of New Mexico since 2011. He has an impressive education, which includes a Bachelor of Arts in Communications, National Animal Control Association training, Level 1 and Level 2, HSUS training on animal cruelty and fighting investigations, Bernalillo County and FEMA emergency management training, just to name a few. Alan is also a writer, a musician, an activist, and an artist. He and his wife, Tisha, live with feline companions Nona, Chauncey, and Pippi. All are rescued from the streets of Albuquerque. So welcome, Alan. And then joining Alan today are Bobby Heller and from Felines and Friends and Margaret Spear. Bobby Heller is the executive director, and Bobby, can you just raise your hand so everybody knows? Awesome. Of Felines and Friends, New Mexico. Bobby has been involved in rescue work for 36 years with Felines and Friends in Los Angeles before moving to Santa Fe in 2000. She and her husband were instrumental in getting cats trapped, neutered, and returned even before this practice became widely known as TNR, or Trap, Neuter, Return. Here in New Mexico, they did not intend to continue this work, but discovered an overwhelming need. So far, her organization has rescued over 4,000 cats and placed them into loving homes. Wow. And then we have Margaret. Margaret Spear is an active citizen. And Margaret, can you raise your hand? Welcome. An active citizen of Truth or Consequences in Sierra County. She cares deeply about animals, has had many dogs, and most recently added Fiona, a rescued puppy, into her life. She has worked with Alan on an ordinance for her county that you will hear about in our presentation. Welcome, Margaret. And also joining us today is Laura Bonner. She's APNM's Chief Policy and Program Officer, and she will be available to answer questions at the end during our Q&A. Thank you, Laura, for being here. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alan, who will get us started and take us through today's fascinating presentation. Alan, it's up to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alan Edmonds, and as Dorothy noted, I'm the Cruelty Case Manager at APNM and have been for almost 10 years now. Welcome to everybody. Hope everybody's been staying well and safe during the health emergency. The health emergency has not only impacted all of us individually in our private lives, but pretty much is looming over just about everything in the landscape, and animal control agencies and shelters are also sometimes affected in this epidemic. So I will not be focusing on COVID, but I thought I would mention it at the beginning. And I will be probably referring to it where it's appropriate later on in the presentation. So welcome, everyone. Let's get started on the APNM's Cruelty Hotline. So I do manage the Cruelty Hotline, and the toll-free number is 877-5-HUMANE. The hotline is unique to APNM and to New Mexico. To our knowledge, there's nothing like it in any other state in the United States. And what the purpose of it is to, of course, address people's animal concerns and to provide them resources. So I often help people refer complaints to animal control or law enforcement, also provide information and resources when appropriate. The data from the hotline is tracked and analyzed, and this helps identify trends. For example, sometimes it can inform APNM policy changes, such as with the Equine Protection Fund, as some of you may already know, is APNM's fund that provides assistance to people who are having difficulty due to a temporary situation, their equines, their horses, donkeys, etc. So that grew out of a hotline trend that was noticed where we were receiving an inordinate amount of calls for horse neglect and starving horses. In managing the hotline, I work with animal control and law enforcement agencies, and I also work with other advocates and organizations. Here's some statistics about the hotline. This is from Q1 2018 to Q3 2020, and you can see that we are tracking, the top line is the total calls, which began 2 years ago about 97, and did a little zigzagging on the way up, but is up to 207 as of last quarter, which is a pretty steady increase. If you put a line through those 207 and 97, is a steady increase. One of the trends that is almost always in effect is that dog neglect and abuse are the #1 call, the most prevalent call that come into the hotline. So we're tracking that with that second line, the red line, and you can see that that has also been slowly but steadily increasing from 22 to 64 over the same time period. And then that very bottom line, which you can barely see any bumps on, is for the rewards that are offered. And those were in Q1 2018 and then also Q2 of 2020. We'll get into the reward program later, but that's what that line is for. So some other statistics. In 2019, last year, there were 538 total calls. As I mentioned previously, there's 155 dog neglect and 60 dog abuse, and those were both the two highest frequency calls during that period. To the right, you'll see a picture of my old dog Hope, who's been deceased for a few years, but was one of the probably least neglected dogs you'd ever meet. She's there for a counterpoint to kind of lighten things up, because some of these calls that come into the hotline are legitimate concerns and very disturbing sometimes. The next most prevalent, tied with dog abuse, is requests for information. That may be anything from asking who to contact to put in a complaint, what the local animal laws are, requests for resources, etc. There were 33 dog other, 27 horse neglect, and 19 of multiple animals in the same case. And then there was a whole bunch of other ones that were smaller numbers than 19. So that's for the year of 2019. Got some examples of hotline cases. This one is the most recent. It was from November 10th of this year, and a caller had reached out about an abandoned dog in Cedar Crest up in the East Mountains in Bernalillo County. The caller had wanted to try and trap the dog and was trying to get Bernalillo County Animal Care Services involved. but because they do have traps and they do lend them out, the officers, however, aren't really able to set the traps and stay there and monitor them. And because that is not a best practice, just setting a trap and not monitoring for various reasons, I suggested the caller contact NM Dog, which is another local nonprofit in New Mexico. And the next day received an update that the dog had been trapped and taken to the shelter. Dog didn't have a microchip and is up for adoption at Bernalillo County Animal Care Services Shelter. The second case was the previous month, October of 2020, and also in Bernalillo County. This was horses with no shade available to them. The top photo you can see there is shade that is provided by that structure to the right. However, the pen doesn't reach it, and the horses had no access to shade. So that was reported to Bernalillo County Animal Care Services, and by November 6th, the owners had extended the pen, as you can see in the lower picture, and now the horses have shade access. You can see the shadow of the horse under the structure. The third case is an animal hoarding case, and animal hoarding is definitely occurring here in New Mexico and everywhere else in the country. This was a serious case. The investigation started with some APNM hotline calls about this hoarder, and it was related to a case in Ilfeld, New Mexico, in San Miguel County. The person had been living there and had moved to the new place in Rowe and taking with her the animals that she could wrangle, leaving the rest of them behind in Ilfeld. So that was an issue. And then because the dogs got out and were running all around the countryside and attacking people's livestock, etc. But the animals that were brought to Rowe were being kept in serious neglect, and there was cruelty involved, very crowded, dirty, and many of the animals had socialization complications. They had not been socialized or were poorly socialized because they were just kept in individual cages, basically. So they were not the ideal adoption dogs, but over 50 dogs and a few cats were rescued from that site eventually. And for a little more insight into it, about one of those dogs from the Rowe situation, we have Carlene Montes de Oca and Grace, her rescue dog from that case. Let's hear what she has to say.
Hi, I'm Carlene Montes de Oca, and this is my companion animal, Grace. Grace is a sweet dog who loves to explore the New Mexico wilderness with me, as well as just hanging out on the couch. If you met Grace today, you probably wouldn't believe the hardship she has endured. In late 2019, Grace was rescued from a hoarding situation in rural New Mexico. We'll never know the extent of what Grace and those dozens of dogs went through, but they were found living in deplorable conditions that would absolutely break your heart. Animal Protection of New Mexico worked actively to end the situation that Grace was rescued from. Cruelty case manager Alan Edmonds worked hard to make sure that the person responsible for harming Grace and all of those dogs was held accountable. APNM often works in the background, unseen and unrecognized. Grace's case is just one of many examples where they have helped bring animals to safety, as well as made sure that their abusers face the consequences for their actions. Grace came to us with physical and emotional scars, but living with her every day and seeing those wounds heal, both seen and unseen, has really been one of the most life-affirming experiences that I have ever had. I'd like to take a moment to thank Alan and to thank the amazing Animal Protection of New Mexico team for all of their tireless efforts on behalf of countless animals just like Grace. Thank you. for making this a better world for our animal friends.
Thanks, Carlene and Grace. That was great. And I do know of some other animals that were adopted out and have also come a long way. So that was a very heartwarming testimonial from Carlene and Grace. Hotline case 4 was also this year, back in July 16th. I was contacted by Bobby from Felines and Friends. This was regarding numerous cats in La Jolla, New Mexico, which is in Socorro County, whose owner had recently passed away. And these cats had been severely neglected and also had no one caring for them. I will let Bobby Heller, Director of Felines and Friends, give you the rest of the details. We were really happy to be able to be involved in helping these cats.
Thank you.
Bobby.
So, yes, I wanted to just say that while many shelters drastically reduced their services throughout the ongoing pandemic, Felines and Friends never stopped responding to calls for help. Following a transfer of over 60 young cats and kittens from shelters in southern New Mexico at the end of May, we were once again called upon to rescue 9 cats and a dog from that home where sadly the owner had succumbed to heart failure. I reached out to Alan because I wasn't sure that we were going to be able to get access into the house and asked if he would be able to pave the way with the sheriff's office. We did get the cooperation. The sheriff's was actually at a loss what to do with all the animals. So it worked out quite well. And once we were able to go in, we took 2 trips down there, several volunteers. We determined that the animals were all older and in very, very bad condition and in urgent need of vet care. And once again, I reached out to Alan and said, okay, now we have the animals. Could we get help with paying the vet bills? Because they were quickly mounting. All the cats, as you can see from the photos, have folded down ears. That's because of ear mites that were never treated. And in fact, the ear canal is closed up and a couple of them suffered eardrum damage. All of that has been addressed, as have all the dentals that were needed. So several of the cats had to have all of their teeth removed, but they're much happier for it. So we could not have achieved these rescues without the support of APNM and Alan helping out and giving advice, as well as the much needed generous donation that kept us going through this project. Some of the cats are still available for adoption. The dog was moved to another rescue in Albuquerque and has subsequently found a home. So I'm very happy about that. And he has definitely made himself a member of that particular family. Also wanted to say that we could not have achieved these rescues without our boarding facility here up in Santa Fe. And because of it, we are launching a capital campaign to purchase it so that we're not just renters. And we look forward to working with Alan and everybody at APNM on our next case, because we know there will be one.
Thanks, Bobby. As a matter of fact, I will be emailing you about another case either after the production or tomorrow in the morning. So thanks again for your work on that case and for getting us involved. And we were happy to be able to help you and Felines and Friends defray those enormous vet expenses.
Yes.
So another part of the program is Animal Protection in New Mexico offers rewards. And these rewards are in animal cruelty and animal fighting cases. They're offered in cooperation with law enforcement or animal control, whoever is the investigating agency. The program offers cash rewards for information leading to the arrest and prosecution of whoever is responsible for the act, which if you look at that poster on the right, that was a recent one from Mora County, New Mexico in, I believe it was June, yes. June of 2020, where 2 horses were shot, one fatally and one that ended up recovering. That one was for up to $4,500. These rewards always send the message that animal cruelty is unacceptable and a crime, and that the perpetrators pose a danger to the people and animals of the community. They don't always result in arrest and prosecution, but they can. And here's an example of one instance in which that was the case. So there was in 2016, in September, up in Sandia Park, the East Mountains of Bernalillo County, there was a news story that I saw about a dog that was shot dead during a burglary. I read that the county sheriff's office was the investigating agency, so I reached out to them, let them know that if they thought that tips from the public would be helpful in this case, that we stood ready to offer a reward, and they agreed to it. So we offered a reward of up to $5,000 for information leading to the arrest and prosecution of whoever's ever responsible for the shooting of Moose, this beautiful Great Dane in the picture. And tips started coming in. In April of 2017, a suspect was arrested and charged, and that was helped along with a tip that had come in to the hotline. The suspect was charged with extreme animal cruelty, which is a 4th-degree felony in New Mexico, amongst a laundry list of other charges. This was actually, if anybody remembers, at that time there was a gang that was pretty much running roughshod over the East Mountains and the Albuquerque metro area, doing burglaries and shooting people that happened to be there, and in this case, the animal, the family companion dog that happened to be there at the time. So that tipster did receive $5,000, and that was a successful reward case. There's another aspect of the program, APNM's Straw Fund, which helps keep animals warmer in the cold weather. Of course, we're an animal advocacy group, and we want to make New Mexico more humane. So we advocate for people to keep their animals indoors. However, there's no law that requires that. It's a best practice, but best practices aren't always made law. And in this case, animals are allowed to be kept outside as long as they're provided with whatever the minimum standards of the ordinance specify. So straw can provide inexpensive and effective insulation, and this is basically a bale of straw costs under $10, can keep up to 3 animals warm. It can be used to line a doghouse or a cat enclosure. As long as it doesn't get wet, it is very great insulation. If it gets wet, it does need to be replaced. And the way that the public gets that is either the officers, if they're out on a call and they encounter somebody that might be able to use some, they offer it to them, they carry it in their trucks, and also the shelters have it available for pickup. That may not be the case during this new lockdown, but should probably change after the next 2 weeks if the lockdown is removed. Which brings me to, even though this isn't part of the straw fund, I do know that at least some of the large animal control agencies are still, or departments are still sending their officers out into the field to do welfare checks, etc. And those include Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, Santa Fe County. Rio Rancho has some limitations at this point. So that's another way that the COVID epidemic has affected animal control and animal shelters. So here's the officer training scholarships. This is a grant-funded program. APNM provides training scholarships to animal control and law enforcement officers. It's an important resource for officers, departments, and agency. Since the COVID-19 restrictions kicked in, We've made a hard pivot to online training from in-person training. Indeed, earlier in the year, the scholarships I had assigned for some in-person trainings ended up having to be refunded because the in-person trainings were postponed and eventually canceled. So this online training, which is offered from the National Animal Control Association, is providing an opportunity for, even during this health emergency, the officers to get the training that they need to be more effective in protecting the animals and people of their communities. There are two 20-hour modules, Basic ACO 1 and Basic ACO 2. And after passing the final exam for both of those, the officer is certified under NACA as a NACA certified officer. So this is a great program because it does build goodwill with the departments and the officers while ensuring that the officers have adequate training. And of course, it helps protect the animals and people of their community. So we're really happy to be able to offer these types of scholarships to the officers. I have some videos from some busy officers who couldn't be here, who both received scholarships. These are officers Erica Garcia and Justin Marquez of the City of Las Vegas Animal Control Department. Here's Officer Garcia. Let's hear what she has to say.
Hello, my name is Erica Garcia. I'm with the Las Vegas Animal Control. I would like to say thank you to APNM. They have provided me with a scholarship to attend the Basic Animal Control 1 and Animal Control 2. During this time, I was able to gain a lot of experience and training as far as how to distinguish between animal abuse and animal cruelty, as well as animal behaviors. They also provided me education on how to obtain seizures, search warrants, and other court documentation. So once again, I'd like to thank APNM for providing me with this great opportunity.
Thanks, Officer Garcia. Next, we have Officer Justin Marquez, also the City of Las Vegas Animal Control.
My name is Justin Marquez. I'm an animal control officer with the City of Las Vegas Police Department. I work with Animal Welfare Coalition of Northeastern New Mexico on a daily basis. I just want to thank the APNM for obtaining the scholarships for myself and my partner for the Animal Control Officer 1 certification and the Animal Control Officer 2 certification. As far as the Animal Control 1 certification, one thing that I really learned from that was communicating with the public better. Through their training, I was able to obtain more knowledge and more ways to de-escalate situations in the field. With the ACO2 certification, I was able to, one of the things that I was able to really focus on and help me with my career was the behaviors of dogs or animals in general, reading their postures, their eyes, everything. So that was a lot of things that I didn't know about, a lot more signs that I wasn't aware of that are out there for us to read these dogs and see their behaviors and know how to handle situations. So again, I want to thank NACA, I want to thank APNM, I want to thank the Animal Welfare Coalition of Northeastern New Mexico, and for everything that they've done for me and all the trainings, especially the ACO 1 and ACO 2. I want to thank all of you guys that were there to help me obtain everything, all the trainings that I was able to obtain with the City of Las Vegas.
Thanks, Officer Marquez. So this will be before the question and answer session, which will be the last part of the presentation. This will be the final aspect of my work. And this is ordinance work. Animal protection in New Mexico helps change animal laws in the local jurisdictions. Of course, we have animal protection voters, our 501(c)(3), and that is for state laws, and we're active up in legislature, getting bills brought and passed, such as the cockfighting ban a few years back. So that's a very valuable aspect of our organization also at the state level. However, most of the details of how animals are required to be kept and what the prohibited activities are and who it is who enforces the ordinance is basically your incorporated municipalities and county ordinances. So we help with municipal and county ordinance drafting and or revision efforts. I often will be able to advise and educate callers who are concerned about local animal laws. A common scenario is they may find that, for instance, tethering a dog is permitted in their area and is not a prohibited activity, and they may want to change that and be unsatisfied with that, as well they should be, and that's when I can send them our booklet and advise them about how they can maybe get a effort started in their area. I interface with the local activists and the government officials, and I'm always happy to speak in support of the newer revised ordinance. So the booklet that I mentioned is on the right there. That's available to the public. So if there's anybody who's already thinking, I want to change my ordinance, well, you can always get in touch with us and let us know. And we have them, a few physical copies still, but mostly the virtual copies. We have PDFs of it. It's really great. It has everything from the very beginning, determining what your goal is, building your coalition, presenting it to that jurisdiction, usually at a county commission or a city council meeting, and then how to support your arguments and get what it is that you want to get passed. So that's a great booklet. Animal Control Ordinances in New Mexico, A Guide to Successful Improvements. So some ordinance work that I've done recently in 2020, I was contacted by one of the city of Santa Fe councilors who wanted to get an extreme weather provision into their ordinance, which would have been, if passed, then the first of that type in New Mexico. And also would, I pointed out that the chaining laws in the city of Santa Fe at that time also, they did prohibit tethering to a fixed point, but they allowed using a runner or trolley system. And I suggested that perhaps that would be another area to shore up in that ordinance. So that proposal did get written, and the new revision of the ordinance was presented at the Santa Fe City Council meeting, and I and APNM's Legislative Director Jessica Johnson had appeared at the meeting and spoke in support of the revision, which passed unanimously on 3/11/2020 and is now in effect. So Santa Fe City of, give yourselves a hand, because you have the first extreme weather provision in an ordinance in New Mexico. Now let's see if we can get that happening elsewhere in New Mexico. Some other ordinance efforts, Albuquerque's Heart Ordinance. This is before my time when it was actually written and passed. So 2006, that was developed and put into law. And then I have recently, since the beginning of last year, worked on some small changes to that ordinance. The one that's in process right now, if anybody remembers in the news about the guinea pig hoarding case in Albuquerque, it turned out that there was no section in the ordinance that limited the number of guinea pigs, or for that matter, hamsters, gerbils, kangaroo rats, etc. So that's one that's hopefully going to get passed before year end. Bernalillo County, that was in 2013. I was cruelty case manager, but I wasn't involved in the effort. My colleague Sherry Mangold from APNM did sit on the committee for that one, and it was passed in 2013. That one of the things in that ordinance that was a good success was that they banned fixed point chaining in the county. And then more recently, in 2019, there was Sierra County. Sierra County is very rural county. Truth or Consequences is the big city. And they had not had an animal control ordinance at all. And that meant that the state statute was pretty much the only law of the land in the unincorporated sections of Sierra County. But that's all changed now, and I'll let our next guest tell you about it. This is Margaret Spear. She's a Sierra County resident and citizen activist who had originally reached out to me about the situation. Margaret?
Thank you, Alan, and good afternoon, everyone. Yes, about a year and a half ago, I was walking in a park in Sierra County called the Fish Hatchery Park when a dog leapt out of a pickup truck and attacked my little dog, Simon, who weighed about 17 pounds. He survived for about 2 weeks, but ultimately his injuries were horrific and the vet had to put him down. Before the attack, I had contacted the company who leases the park from the Bureau of Reclamation, and they are called Lago Rico. Lago Rico own the marinas at Elephant Butte, and they lease the land. And I had asked them if they would put up signs requiring people to have their dogs on leashes, because so many people didn't, and it was getting to be a dangerous situation. I didn't think that my dog would be attacked, but that's what happened. And they told me that really there was nothing they could do about it, because number one, Bureau of Reclamation owned the land, and we didn't have any county ordinance for Sierra County. So, of course, I was in contact also with the Sheriff's Department. They told me the same thing. And so, Simon died in vain. I mean, he should not have died. If that dog had been on a leash, he would be alive today. So in a little bit of justice to Simon, I decided to try and get an animal ordinance passed. We had tried for 25 years, but without success. So a friend of mine suggested I contact Animal Protection, which I did, and I had a long chat with Alan, who was most helpful. He provided me with all sorts of information about which I had no idea how to do this, and how to organize, how to get people to speak at the meeting, to outline a draft to present to the commissioners. I got my vet to write a report. I also had pictures of Simon's injuries, and all of this was submitted to the commissioners before the meeting. Alan also very kindly offered to come to the meetings, and in fact he came to 2 meetings and was really instrumental in persuading the commissioners to pass an animal ordinance. And in fact we got one. And since then, things at that park have vastly improved. We have signs up now requiring people to have their dogs on a leash. And if we come across somebody who doesn't have their dog on a leash, we can report them to the Sheriff's Department and they can issue a citation. So thanks to Animal Protection, things are much better in the county, and I do appreciate all your help. Thank you, Alan.
Thanks, Margaret, and you're very welcome anytime. We're really happy that that ordinance was enacted, and that leaves, believe it or not, still more a county that has no animal ordinance. So maybe we can at some point get something happening there if we get some concerned citizens. But Sierra County has now got its own ordinance, and wait a couple years and that ordinance might need a revision where you can get some other details in there. And if that's the case, I can certainly be helpful again. So feel free to reach out, and we thank you again for being a guest here. And thanks to all our other guests, and Bobby and the officers and Carlene. Thanks to Darte for the introduction. We're going to be going into now the question and answer session. So my final thank you is to you all in the audience for signing up and for attending this virtual town hall. It was a great experience so far, and now I'll be available to take questions. So thanks again. I believe Isabel is going to be
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Isabel Slater. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I see your questions in the Q&A, so I'm going to read them out loud, and then I'll just toss them over to any or multiple of our panelists to answer. The first one I have here is from Michelle. In Bernalillo County, is it required that they at least have outdoor shelter / coverage for inclement weather, and how is shelter defined?
All right, well, that's a very good question. And yes, Bernalillo County has a pretty comprehensive ordinance, and they do require shelter and also shade independent of shelter to be provided for animals outside, as well as food and water and the usual rabies and licensing, et cetera. So the structure has to be weatherproof, it has to be structurally sound, and it has to be properly sized so that the animal can get in, turn around, lie down, stand up, etc. The shade has to be independent of the shelter. So in other words, of course, the doghouse is going to have shade inside the doghouse, but that doesn't count. So the way that it's written, you would either have to have some other shade, whether it be something already there, a tree, for example, or whether you want to maybe put up a tarp or some sort of a sun shield. And that's basically what's required for the animals outside. If you know of a case where animals are being kept outside without that, you can certainly reach out to me on the hotline or shoot me an email.
Great. Thank you, Alan. Would any of the other panelists like to take a quick shot at answering that? All right. The next question here is from Elizabeth. This says, hi, Alan. Can you explain what animal fighting cases are? Thanks.
Sure. And animal fighting is the broad umbrella that these types of activity fall under. Of course, we have dog fighting, which is not only a crime in New Mexico, but also a federal crime. And we also have cockfighting, which is probably, even though animal protection voters did get it banned, it is still quite a thing in New Mexico. I know there's also dog fighting going on, but I would say that cockfighting is more common in this state. These are, if you haven't heard of either of those activities before, these are basically matches that people gamble on, and they'll bet for one or the other animal to be the victor in a fight to the death, whether that be in a cockfighting ring or a dog fighting ring.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alan. Okay, next question is from Colleen. Who do you call if you're in Valencia County?
If you're in Valencia County unincorporated, so not in one of the incorporated municipalities, because Los Lunas and Belen, for example, do have their own ordinances. If you're in the unincorporated areas, you would call Valencia County Animal Control. And the director there is Jess Weston. I work with him a lot. I get a lot of calls from Bernalillo County, and that's who you need to contact. I don't have the contact info at my fingertips, but you can find it online. Just search Valencia County Animal Control.
Wonderful. The next question is also from Colleen. She asks, how can I get a copy of the booklet, paper copy if available? I believe we at APNM could get you one, Colleen, probably through the mail, but Alan, is there anything you'd like to add there?
Well, we can get you a physical booklet through the mail if you want. And if anybody else is thinking the same thing, get ready with a pen or pencil, and I'll give you my email address. It's alan@apnm.org. If you want one of those booklets, just shoot me an email, and I can get you the physical copies. You can also go to apnm.org, the website, search for that booklet, and then you can download the PDF, or if you want, you can even print out the PDF file. Wonderful.
The next is more of a comment than a question, but I think Beverly really speaks for all of us when she says to Margaret, so sorry, Margaret, for your loss. We all feel that way. And, thank you for coming on here and sharing your story. It just means the world to us.
Thank you very much, everyone.
All right. Next is from Sandy. She asks, are there any chain ordinances in Rio Arriba County? And then additionally, who do we report pit bull attacks to?
Well, let's see. The first one was the chain
ordinance
in that ordinance. I'm kind of operating from memory here because I don't get as many calls from Rio Arriba County as some of the other ones, but they do permit animals to be tethered. As I recall, they do report, or rather do allow them to be tethered to a fixed point. For the details of the ordinance, we actually have all the county and municipal ordinances also at apnm.org's website. Just go to the animal laws section, and there's two tabs. One is for the incorporated municipalities, and then the other is for the counties. They're all in alphabetical order, and they will come up as you click the link. If you have questions about the ordinance that you need to talk about, feel free to shoot me an email or call me on the Cruelty Hotline, and I can kind of go over that with you and discuss it in further detail.
Wonderful. Okay, so Representative Lujan, which we're very excited to have on, thank you so much, asks about the legislative priorities. I know that's a bit more APV. Oh, and Jessica Johnson, who is our Chief Legislative Officer, was able to answer that one. So, Alan, unless you have anything to add, I'm going to skip over that question.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I will actually mention, though, that I've in the Cruelty Hotline, that's something now that I think about it, I didn't touch upon. Sometimes there are cases that present evidence for the need of a legislative change, and I'm working on a couple of those and have worked on a couple of those recently, and hopefully one or both of them will be part of this upcoming legislative session.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, and the last question is from Sherry. She asks about billboards. APNM used to have 2 billboards, one on I-40 and one on I-25, that had the toll-free cruelty phone number listed on them. I know they were incredibly helpful to those traveling who witnessed animal concerns. Is there any chance of having them again?
Well, that's... Although obviously, the hotline is my job, that's kind of a little bit out of my niche. I do remember those billboards, and I believe had, I want to say, some electronic billboards in Albuquerque as well. I could probably at least get in touch with our marketing director and see if that's maybe an option. Get with my other supervisors and marketing and see if maybe we can get that happening again.
Wonderful.
I'd like to add to that, Alan, and it's funny that this was brought up here because most recently we had a conversation in one of our committee meetings about exactly that topic. And so that is something that we're currently discussing and will be pursuing.
Great. Wonderful. And there's, I said the last question. There is, it looks like one more from Dave and Eileen Steele that we might have time for. They ask, may we publish your hotline number in a letter to the editor in Doña Ana County? Can't guarantee the paper would actually publish it.
Well, again, that's something that I'd probably have to get with marketing on, but if they were on board with it, that would certainly be something we could give a shot. I know that we've been featured in some other print publications. I remember for a while we were getting in that Albuquerque Journal insert. We had a little section in. So, yeah, I mean, that's again a possibility that would have to come out of marketing, but we could certainly try to, if that's something that they're okay with, send a press release to the paper, and then if they print it, they print it. Obviously, that's their choice what they choose to print in their publication.
All right, and one final question this time, I promise, from Beverly. So we contact APNM first or animal control in Bernalillo County?
Well, it really depends on what the issue is and how you're hoping to deal with it. First of all, if it's an emergency, don't bother calling APNM. It'll only slow the process down. If it's a true emergency, if there's a dog hanging by a tether, or if there's an animal in a hot car or something like that, you can even use 911. For other situations, it's better just to contact Bernalillo County Animal Care Services. Their number, I can't remember the numbers, but it spells out Got Pets. Just dial them and put in your complaint, and they'll get out there as soon as possible. Now, if you are hoping to perhaps remain anonymous, if you want to maybe try another tack and see if there are resources available that might help the situation, you can always reach out to me through the hotline, and I will be happy to help you. I do get a large number of anonymous or callers who wish to remain anonymous contacts, and we'll always do that if that's what the person needs. Obviously, there are various reasons that one might want to remain anonymous, ranging from the possibility of retaliation to other possibilities. So we're always happy to help you be the animal's voice. And the hotline is really great. And I've really been it's been such a fulfilling experience being able to help people help the animals that they're concerned about. There's always another success around the corner. Of course, not all is happy endings, and sometimes there's no closure at all on certain cases, but it really is helpful. And the people who are calling are really the people I'd like to thank, because I haven't been called by a dog or a cat or a horse yet, and I don't expect to. So it's the only way that I can hear about it, and the only way I can help these animals is with your help. So thanks to all of you who have used the hotline, and thanks in advance if you're considering using the hotline. I'm always happy to help.
Well, thank you so much, Alan and Bobby and Margaret, and officers Eric Garcia and Justin Marcus of the City of Las Vegas, and our supporter Carlene Montes de Oca, who contributed video content for this event. This was such valuable and interesting information that you shared with us today. Thank you so much. We have recorded the session and will make the recording available to all participants afterwards. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today, and we hope you have a great evening. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Hi, thank you.